Hello and welcome to this video on creating a bonsai tree that is suitable for a beginner. Many beginners in bonsai want an amazing tree from the very start. They also don't realize that the amazing tree is amazing because of maintenance and knowledge. This is why a solid beginner tree is a better place to start. A far less expensive tree, one without temperament, and it allows the recipient to learn how to develop and maintain a bonsai. As we have said before, try to choose a species that is either resilient or very fast growing when considering beginner trees. Better yet if it is both. In this case, we're going to go with a tree that is forgiving in its growth and recovery while also being interesting. A pear tree. While there are some, let's say, limitations or issues with pear trees, overall we think the advantages will outweigh any disadvantages. We are aiming to use a pear tree as it has a lot of interest in lieu of development. This is primarily for its attraction qualities for the beginner. The novelty of a fruiting species cannot be overestimated. Plus, it also provides plenty of lessons that are applicable elsewhere. You could instead use something like an ornamental pear instead, which will achieve much of the same results, but you won't get either flowers or fruit. For this example, we are going to take what is already a rather long whip of a branch that was air-laid off. You can either choose to use nursery-grown stock or any other species of a similar kind that suits you, for example an apple tree. What we have left is somewhat underdeveloped as a specimen. It's rather tall but has no side or back branch structure. That doesn't worry us so much, as that's something that can be fixed given time. The course of action we'll likely be taking would make a horticulturalist wince. In order to get this to develop into a bonsai, we are going to chop this short. Very short. This is going to help in two ways. First, we're going to get a better ratio of trunk size to the overall bonsai size. Second, the growth that would have had the tree growing upwards will now be directed to the side branches and trunk girth. This gives us a lot more solid trunk and a lot more branch development that we wouldn't be getting otherwise. While we're not going to do very much about the trunk girth, there are ways that we could if we were going to do that. Tourniquet, sacrifice branches and repotting from Nabari spread. These are all fairly common. Another would be to split the trunk. Given that this is going to be a beginner-friendly tree, the Nabari is not such a concern and the trunk girth will develop over time. So rather than jump straight into that, we're going to leave plenty of options open for somebody coming to this tree later. What we will be doing is working on the branch structure. This is for two reasons. One is fruit, but before fruit we will get flowers. These are two features that are very nice to see in bonsai. Flowering azaleas are commonly displayed as a specimen for this reason. What we're doing will mean it can produce fruit, and that is a sort of bonus if anything else, but it's not going to be a huge delay as this is already a fruiting tree on a larger scale. And to get this, we will need several features, and the most immediate but ever-present consideration with bonsai is the ramification. We need ramification for the flowers and fruit to show. We're also going to try and make the branches droop more. This is more of an aesthetic feature than necessity. You may wish to maintain a more horizontal or even slightly elevated branch position to accommodate the weight of fruit, so the branch does not shift too much as it grows. The horizontal worry will eventually dissipate as these branches thicken, and also while we are making the choice now. If we did not decide this now, it would be very hard to develop later. With that in mind, we're going to therefore be tying these branches down low if we can, and we're also going to be encouraging growth to split from each branch at a regular interval. This is one advantage to having this very narrow whip. We can start the process of ramification now, and this means we get better branches from the very beginning, rather than having to go back and correct things that otherwise could have been dealt with sooner. The hope is that within 2 years at most, this will be a suitable beginner tree with a nicely developed branch structure, preferably somewhat wide but not particularly tall, that it will have a nice dense canopy of leaves, and that in spring and summer you'll see it flower. Overall, the preparation of this tree is relatively simple, and that is because we are not focusing on a finished bonsai. What we are trying to create is something far enough along that a beginner can see what could be, what was done, and the steps needed to fill in the gap between. It's essentially a connect the dots kind of puzzle. We've started it, you know what it's meant to be in the end, You just need to figure out which are the steps to take to get there. And that's perhaps the biggest thing you want with a beginner-friendly tree. Something where they're not having to make all the decisions themselves, but enough of the decisions that they feel in control while also making progress. In the meantime, thank you for watching. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions you have below